The last harbor. Commander Maya Rodriguez stood at the viewport of New Singapore Station, watching Earth's gleaming curve below. After 25 years in Earth's Naval Space Command, retirement felt less like freedom and more like being set adrift. Her reflection stared back at her, dark eyes, silver-streaked black hair pulled into a regulation bun she couldn't bring herself to abandon. "Commander Rodriguez?" The voice behind her spoke in melodic tones she'd never heard from a human throat. She turned to find one of the Lisani, tall, willowy beings with iridescent skin that seemed to shift between blue and green depending on the light. This one wore elaborate robes that rippled like water, marking them as a ship's captain. "Just Maya now," she corrected automatically. "I'm retired. I am Captain Aloan of the merchant vessel Starweaver." The Lisani's head frills rippled in what Maya had learned was their equivalent of a smile. "Your reputation precedes you. 25 years navigating Earth's solar system fleet, including the Mars crisis of 2157. Maya's hand unconsciously touched the scar at her temple, a souvenir from that particular crisis. "Ancient history now. Perhaps. But experience never truly ages." Eloan's silver eyes fixed on her with unnerving intensity. "We're seeking a first officer for the Starweaver. Someone who understands both space and command. Someone who can help modernize our traditional methods while respecting our ways." Maya blinked. The Lisani were known for their isolationist tendencies and adherence to ancient traditions. They were master navigators who spurned most modern technology, preferring to rely on their almost mystical connection to space itself. The idea of them seeking a human officer was unprecedented. "Why me?" "Because you understand that space isn't just about coordinates and calculations. You've always treated it with the respect it deserves." Eloan's frills rippled again. "And because you're lost." Maya started to protest, but the words died in her throat. She had been lost since the retirement ceremony, rattling around her apartment like a spare part, missing the hum of engines and the weight of responsibility. "The position would be challenging," Eloan continued. "Our ways are different from yours. Many of our crew have never worked closely with humans. But we believe this could benefit both our peoples." Through the viewport, a Lisani ship glided past, all organic curves and flowing lines, so different from the angular human vessels. Maya had always admired their beauty, their connection to the space they traveled through. "When do you need an answer?" "We depart in 3 standard days." Eloan produced a data crystal, offering it with both hands in the formal Lisani manner. "All the details are here. Consider carefully, Commander. This isn't just about finding your next posting. It's about finding your place among the stars." After Eloan left, Maya stayed at the viewport, turning the crystal between her fingers. Below, Earth continued its eternal dance, but for the first time since her retirement, she found herself looking up at the stars instead of down at home. In her apartment that evening, Maya reviewed the crystal's contents. The Starweaver was a long-range merchant vessel, specializing in rare materials and diplomatic deliveries. The crew manifest listed 40 Lisani, all from the same extended clan, as was their custom. The ship itself was nearly a century old, practically ancient by human standards but merely seasoned to the longer-lived Lisani. Her door chimed, interrupting her research. "Enter," she called, expecting her sister's weekly check-in call. Instead, Admiral Chen's weathered face appeared on her screen. "Heard you got an interesting offer, Maya." She straightened automatically. News travels fast. The first human first officer on a Lisani vessel. That's not news, that's history. He leaned forward. The diplomatic corps is very interested. The Lisani have been keeping us at arm's length since first contact. This could be an opportunity. I'm retired, sir. Not a diplomat. You're exactly what we need. Someone who understands both military protocol and the importance of cultural sensitivity. Someone who can build bridges without making it obvious that's what they're doing. Maya frowned. Are you saying this offer isn't genuine? The offer is genuine. The Lisani don't play those kinds of games. But they wouldn't have made it if they weren't ready for closer relations with humanity. All I'm saying is, keep your eyes open. Learn what you can. After the Admiral signed off, Maya walked to her window. New Singapore's lights sparkled below, but her eyes were drawn to the Lisani ships in their designated docking area, their bioorganic hulls gleaming like pearls in the station's lights. 3 days to decide. 3 days to choose between a quiet retirement on Earth or a leap into the unknown. Her hand went to her temple again, tracing the scar from the Mars crisis. She'd earned that by taking a risk, by believing humans and the Mars separatists could find common ground. It had worked then. Maybe it was time for another risk. Maya turned from the window and began packing. Strange tides. The Starweaver's bridge was nothing like any command center Maya had ever seen. Instead of rigid rows of monitors and control stations, the space flowed in organic curves. The Lisani crew interfaced with their stations through a combination of bioluminescent displays and what appeared to be direct neural links, their head frills rippling with data exchange. Your station has been modified for human use, Captain Aloan explained, gesturing to a more conventional-looking console. Though we hope you'll learn our methods in time. Maya ran her hands over the smooth surface, noting how it seamlessly blended human and Lisani technology. It's beautiful, she admitted. But I noticed there's no artificial gravity. We prefer to feel space as it truly is. Eloan's frills rippled with amusement. Though we've installed magnetic boots for you in consideration of human inner ear sensitivity. The entire ship operated in zero gravity, with the Lisani crew gliding effortlessly through corridors that curved in all directions. It made perfect sense, their homeworld was mostly ocean, and three-dimensional movement came naturally to them. For Maya, it meant relearning basic navigation despite her years of space experience. During her first week aboard, Maya discovered that being first officer on a Lisani vessel involved more than just managing crew rotations and maintaining ship systems. The Lisani approached space travel almost spiritually, with rituals and observations that seemed odd to her military-trained mind but clearly served important functions. You're confused by our morning gatherings, Senior Navigator Lyra noted during one such session. The young Lisani had appointed herself Maya's unofficial cultural interpreter. I'm trying to understand, Maya replied, watching the crew move through flowing gestures that reminded her of Tai Chi on human ships. We'd be running system diagnostics right now. Lyra's frills shimmered with colors Maya was learning to recognize as enthusiasm. But we are. Feel the ship's rhythm, the subtle vibrations through the deck, the way the recyclers hum. Our movements align our awareness with the ship's systems. Maya closed her eyes, trying to feel what Lyra described. To her surprise, she could sense patterns in the background noise she'd always taken for granted. It's like a heartbeat. Exactly. Lyra's skin flickered with joy. The ship lives, in its way. Understanding its rhythms helps us navigate more efficiently than any computer. The lesson was interrupted by a sudden shift in the ship's ambient sound. Maya's military instincts snapped to attention even before the alert crystals began pulsing. Solar storm, Captain Aloan's voice echoed through the ship. All crews to position. First Officer Rodriguez to the bridge. Maya pushed off the deck, using her magnetic boots to control her trajectory through the corridors. On the bridge, she found organized chaos as the Lisani crew moved in complex patterns, their frills flashing with rapid communication. Our traditional shielding methods may be insufficient, Aloan explained as Maya reached her station. The storm is larger than any in our records. Maya quickly pulled up sensor data on her hybrid console. The approaching storm was massive, a wall of charged particles that would overwhelm most ships' defenses. But something about the pattern. Captain, this reminds me of the Martian dust storms I navigated during the crisis. If we can create an electromagnetic vortex, we might be able to ride the edge of the storm rather than trying to shield against it directly. Eloan's frills rippled with interest. Explain. Maya's fingers flew over her console, pulling up navigational models. Your organic hull can generate electromagnetic fields more flexibly than human ships. If we modify your traditional shielding pattern like this. She demonstrated with the simulator. Ambitious, Eloan mused. And dangerous. But combining our methods might work. The captain turned to the crew, frills flashing in rapid communication. Prepare for storm riding. First Officer Rodriguez will coordinate with navigation. What followed was an intricate dance of human precision and Lisani intuition. Maya called out vector changes while Lyra translated them into the flowing movements the crew understood. The ship's hull thrummed with power as it generated the electromagnetic vortex, and then they were riding the storm's edge like surfers on a wave. Hours later, as the storm dissipated behind them, Maya found herself surrounded by quietly celebrating Lisani. Captain Eloan approached, frills radiating what Maya now recognized as respect. You understood our ways enough to adapt them, rather than simply imposing human methods, the captain observed. This is why we chose you. I'm learning that different doesn't mean wrong, Maya replied. Your connection to the ship. I felt it today, during the storm. It's not just mysticism, it's a different way of processing information. Perhaps, Eloan's skin rippled with subtle colors, you are beginning to find your place among the stars after all. Later, in her quarters, Maya recorded a message to Admiral Chen. Cultural exchange is proceeding well, she reported formally. Then she smiled. Though probably not in the way anyone expected. The Lisani aren't just teaching me their ways, they're creating something new by combining our methods. And sir, I think this is just the beginning. She ended the recording and pushed off toward her viewport. The stars streaked by in familiar patterns, but she was starting to see them differently, not as navigation points to be plotted, but as parts of a living cosmos that demanded both respect and understanding. She had a feeling her greatest challenges, and discoveries, still lay ahead. Hidden currents. The derelict human vessel hung against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars like a ghost ship from old maritime legends. Maya stared at the magnified image on her console, something cold settling in her stomach. The RSS Hawking had disappeared 3 years ago during a deep space research mission. Finding it here, well outside its documented course, raised uncomfortable questions. No distress beacon, she reported, keeping her voice steady. No power signatures. Hull appears intact, but there's evidence of weapons fire. Captain Eloan drifted beside her station, frills rippling with subtle colors Maya had never seen before. Was it concern? Guilt? After 3 months aboard the Star Weaver, she thought she'd learned to read Lisani expressions, but something about this situation had the entire crew acting strangely. We should investigate, Maya continued. Protocol requires. Protocol? Eloan interrupted softly. Whose protocol, First Officer? We are not a military vessel, and this is not Earth jurisdiction. Maya turned to face her captain directly. With respect, that's a human research vessel. If there's any chance of survivors. After 3 years? But Eloan's frills rippled in what Maya recognized as resignation. Very well. Prepare a boarding team. But Maya. The use of her first name caught her attention. Remember that what we find may not be what you expect. The boarding party consisted of Maya, Lyra, and 2 Lisani engineers. As their shuttle approached the Hawking, Maya noted details that bothered her professional eye. The weapon's damage was precise, targeting engines and communications but leaving life support intact. This hadn't been a random attack. The airlock's been modified, one of the engineers noted as they prepared to dock. These are Lisani adaptations. Maya looked sharply at Lyra, but the young navigator's attention was firmly fixed on her instruments. The mystery deepened as they entered the ship. The corridors showed signs of both abandonment and careful preservation. Dust floated in the zero gravity, but the emergency lights still functioned, powered by what looked like Lisani energy cells. Someone's been maintaining minimal systems, Maya observed. Why wasn't this reported to Earth authorities? Lyra's skin rippled with distress. Some questions are better left unasked, First Officer. They found their answers in the ship's main laboratory. The room had been transformed into a hybrid of human and Lisani technology. Star charts covered the walls, showing a region of space Maya had never seen in any official mapping. At the center of the room, a holographic display showed what appeared to be a tear in space itself, a phenomenon that shouldn't have been possible according to either human or Lisani physics. They found it, Lyra whispered, her usual enthusiasm replaced by something like awe. The crossing. Found what? Maya demanded. What happened to the crew? They're safe, a new voice answered. Maya spun to find another Lisani in the doorway, wearing the robes of a science elder. They chose to stay with us, to continue their research in secret. Elder Morin, Lyra greeted with deep respect. We didn't know you were aboard. This station is one of many, the elder explained, gliding into the room. The Hawking's crew discovered something both our peoples have sought for centuries, a natural phenomenon that could revolutionize space travel. But neither side was ready for the implications. Maya's military training warred with her growing understanding of Lisani culture. You had no right to keep this secret. Their families think they're dead. The crew made their own choice, Elder Morin countered. They understood that premature revelation of the crossing could lead to conflict between our peoples. Humans would rush to exploit it, my people would move to protect it. Neither approach serves the greater good. Maya studied the holographic display, understanding dawning. That's why your people finally reached out to humans. Why you wanted me on the Star Weaver. You're preparing for the day this becomes public. We are building bridges, Morin agreed. Teaching each other that there are many ways to approach the mysteries of space. The crew of the Hawking learned this. Now you must decide what you will do with this knowledge. Maya thought of Admiral Chen's request to gather intelligence, of her duty to report discoveries of this magnitude. But she also thought of the Lisani crew's patient teaching, of the way they'd merged human and Lisani methods during the solar storm. Of the trust they'd placed in her by bringing her here. I want to meet them, she said finally. The Hawking's crew. I need to understand their choice before I make mine. Elder Morin's frills rippled with approval. A wise request. Captain Aloan chose well in you, Maya Rodriguez. Come, there is much to discuss, and the stars have many more secrets to share. The elder led them deeper into the ship, and Maya felt the weight of the moment. Whatever she discovered here would change not just her future, but the future of human-Lisani relations. She thought of her last view of Earth from New Singapore Station, how she'd been looking up at the stars instead of down at home. Perhaps she'd been preparing for this moment all along. As they moved through the transformed corridors of the Hawking, Maya began composing two messages in her head. One to Admiral Chen, explaining why some secrets needed to remain hidden until the time was right. And one to Captain Aloan, accepting a more permanent position aboard the Star Weaver. After all, someone needed to help build the bridges that would eventually unite their peoples. The stars had indeed led her to find her place among them, just not in any way she could have imagined. The deep between. 2 months after discovering the truth about the Hawking, Maya found herself facing an entirely new challenge. The Star Weaver had detected an unusual signal while passing through an unmapped sector, a deliberate pattern that couldn't be natural, yet matched no known communication protocols. It's not human or Lisani, Maya confirmed, studying her console's readings. And it's getting stronger. Captain Aloan drifted near the main viewport, frills shimmering with complex patterns that reflected off the organic walls. The timing is problematic. We're carrying sensitive data about the crossing. Maya understood the captain's concern. After meeting the Hawking's crew and learning about their groundbreaking discoveries, she'd agreed to help maintain the secret until proper diplomatic channels could be established. But now an unknown factor had entered the equation. The signal resolved itself into a visual transmission. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as a massive vessel emerged from behind a nearby gas giant. Its design was unlike anything in human or Lysani records, all sharp angles and crystalline structures that seemed to bend light around them. "They're hailing us," Lyra reported from her station. "But, the signal pattern is strange. It's like they're trying multiple formats simultaneously." "They're attempting to find a compatible communication method," Maya realized. "This is a first contact situation." The gravity of the moment settled over the bridge. First contact protocols existed for both human and Lysani ships, but they'd never been tested with both species present. The Starweaver's unique crew composition suddenly became either their greatest advantage or a dangerous liability. "We should respond with standard greetings in both languages," Maya suggested. "Show them immediately that cooperation between species is possible." Eloan's frills rippled with approval. "Agreed. But we must be cautious. The knowledge we carry about the crossing, if they were to learn of it. Then we make sure they don't," Maya said firmly. "Let me handle the initial contact. My experience with bridging human and Lysani communication styles might help." The alien vessel's response came in the form of a mathematical sequence, prime numbers, then simple equations, building up to more complex mathematical concepts. Maya worked with Lyra to construct a reply that incorporated both human binary code and Lysani harmonic frequencies. "They're matching our format," Lyra reported excitedly. "And, they're requesting visual communication." The main screen activated, revealing a sight that made Maya catch her breath. The beings on the other ship appeared to be composed of crystalline structures themselves, with bodies that shifted and reformed as they moved. Light pulsed through their forms in patterns reminiscent of Lysani bioluminescence. "We are the Meridian," one of the beings announced in a voice that somehow combined mathematical precision with musical harmony. "We have been observing your species, both of your species, from afar. Your ship presents an unexpected opportunity." Maya exchanged glances with Captain Eloan. "We're honored to make your acquaintance," she replied carefully. "I am First Officer Maya Rodriguez, and this is Captain Eloan of the merchant vessel Starweaver." "A human serving under a Lysani captain," the Meridian observed. "Fascinating. Our studies suggested your peoples were more segregated." "Times change," Eloan responded. "We learn to adapt." "Indeed. The crystalline being shifted, creating new facets that caught the light. We have been waiting for signs of such adaptation. There are matters we wish to discuss. Discoveries that should interest both your peoples." Maya felt her pulse quicken. Could they know about the crossing? Or had they made similar discoveries of their own? Perhaps, another Meridian joined in, its form more angular than the first. "We should discuss this in person. Our vessel is equipped to accommodate various atmospheric requirements." It was a critical moment. Protocol dictated caution in first contact situations, but turning down such an invitation could be seen as hostile. Maya looked at Captain Eloan, seeing her own concerns reflected in the captain's rippling frills. "We would be honored," Eloan said finally. "But first, we must establish basic protocols for interaction. First Officer Rodriguez has experience in facilitating cross-cultural communication." The next several hours were intense but productive. Maya drew on everything she'd learned about bridging cultural gaps, not just between humans and Lysani, but from her years in Earth's multicultural space force. The Meridians proved to be fascinating dialogue partners, their crystalline nature reflecting a perspective that was simultaneously highly logical and deeply philosophical. As they worked to establish common ground, Maya began to suspect that this meeting wasn't entirely coincidental. The Meridians' questions were too specific, their interest in human Lysani cooperation too focused. They knew something, or we're looking for something. During a brief recess in the negotiations, she pulled Captain Aloan aside. They're testing us, she whispered. The way they keep asking about how we resolve conflicts, how we handle scientific discoveries. You believe they know about the crossing? Aloan's frills rippled with concern. I think they might have found something similar, Maya replied. They're trying to determine if we're ready for that kind of knowledge. Aloan was quiet for a moment, frills shifting through complex patterns. Then we must show them that we are. Not just humans, not just Lisani, but together. Maya nodded, understanding the weight of what lay ahead. They weren't just representing their own ship anymore, but the future of interspecies cooperation. The secrets of the crossing, the fate of the Hawking's crew, the delicate balance they'd been working to maintain, all of it would be tested by what happened next. As they prepared to board the Meridian vessel, Maya found herself thinking of that last view from New Singapore Station. She'd been looking for her place among the stars. Instead, she might have found humanity's place in a much larger community. New horizons. The interior of the Meridian vessel defied conventional physics. Crystalline corridors shifted and reformed as they walked, creating paths that seemed to exist in more dimensions than Maya could comprehend. The delegation from the Star Weaver, Maya, Captain Aloan, Lyra, and Elder Morin, moved carefully through this living geometry, their path illuminated by the pulsing light of their hosts. Your adaptation to our environment is impressive, the lead Meridian, who had introduced themselves as First Resonance, observed. Many species find our architecture distressing. We're learning that discomfort often precedes understanding, Maya replied, thinking of her early days aboard the Star Weaver. What had once seemed alien now felt like home. The Meridians led them to what appeared to be a conference chamber, though the walls continued to shift and change. As they settled into specially adapted seats, First Resonance's crystalline form pulsed with complex patterns. We have watched your species, both of them, for some time, they began. We observed your conflicts, your alliances, your discoveries. Including your recent finding near the edge of known space. Maya felt Captain Aloan tense beside her. Elder Morin's frills rippled with concern. The crossing, First Resonance continued. A natural phenomenon that appears to violate the laws of physics as you understand them. But it is only the beginning. The chamber's walls transformed into a vast stellar display, showing multiple tiers in space-time, crossings, scattered throughout the galaxy. Maya's breath caught as she realized the implications. They're a network, she whispered. Correct. First Resonance's form shifted appreciatively. Created eons ago by beings we call the architects. We have spent millennia studying them, learning their purpose. But we are not their intended inheritors. What do you mean? Elder Morin asked, their usual composure shaken. The architects left markers, tests, to identify species ready to use their network. The key requirement was not technological advancement, but the ability to truly cooperate across species boundaries. To see beyond biological differences to recognize common purpose. The chamber's display zoomed in on the Star Weaver, highlighting the unique makeup of its crew. Your ship, First Resonance continued, represents the first step toward what the architects envisioned. Humans' drive to explore combined with Lisani intuitive understanding of space itself. Together, you have potential neither species could achieve alone. Maya thought of the Hawking's crew, choosing to stay and work with the Lisani rather than return home. Of her own journey from retired naval officer to bridge between worlds. But we're not ready, she said. There's still so much mistrust, so many secrets. Which is why we reveal this to you now. Another Meridian, Second Harmony, joined in. We are not guardians, but guides. We offer you a choice. The display shifted again, showing a massive crossing near the galactic core. This is the primary node of the network. In 3 standard years, it will become active for a brief period. If representatives of your species can prove yourselves worthy by then, can demonstrate true cooperation, you will gain access to the network, and all the knowledge the architects left behind. And if we fail? Captain Aloan asked. The network will remain dormant for another millennium. The choice, and the challenge, is yours. Maya looked at her companions. She saw the weight of responsibility in Aloan's rippling frills, the excitement in Lyra's bioluminescent patterns, the thoughtful consideration in Elder Morin's stance. They all understood what this meant, not just for their ship, but for all their peoples. We need to go public about the crossing, Maya said finally. About everything. If we're going to build the trust needed for this, we can't do it with secrets. It will cause chaos, Elder Morin warned. At first, Maya agreed. But look at us, look at this ship. We've proven it can work. We just need to show others the way. Captain Aloan's frills rippled with decision. First Resonance, we accept your challenge. But we will do it our way, openly, honestly, bringing our peoples together through understanding rather than necessity. The Meridian's crystalline form sparkled in what Maya had learned to recognize as approval. Then let us begin. There is much to prepare, and time flows differently near the crossings. Later, as they returned to the Star Weaver, Maya recorded what would be her final message to Admiral Chen. Sir, everything is about to change. But this time, we're ready for it. We found something out here in the deep between stars, not just new physics or technology, but a purpose. A chance to be part of something greater than ourselves. She paused, looking out at the crystalline Meridian ship gliding alongside them, at the stars that held so many more secrets waiting to be discovered. I won't be returning to Earth anytime soon. There's too much work to be done out here, too many bridges to build. But for the first time since I left the Navy, I know exactly where I belong. Maya ended the recording and pushed off toward the bridge, where Captain Aloan and the crew waited. The stars streamed past the viewport, each one holding the promise of new discoveries, new challenges, new opportunities for cooperation. She had finally found her place among the stars, not just for herself, but for all of humanity. The real journey was just beginning.